This might be life-changing episode for someone who is in the roofing trade, actually roofing every day, might be listening and decided to make a phone call or to fill up application, relocate to Hawaii and spend the rest of his life in paradise, working for a company, earning his retirement and enjoying beautiful scenery every day.
I have a very special young entrepreneur today on our podcast. His name is Brennan. Very, very impressive and humble young man. But first, I want to introduce you to our sponsor of this podcast, Atlas Roofing Corporation. Amazing business partner for any roofer out there. If you're looking for a company that will be there with you when you need them, look no more. Check out Atlas if they have a presence in your market. I remember when I was a roofing contractor, I made a couple bad decisions about manufacturers. I bought from bigger brands, not necessarily who supported me later, who was in my corner when I needed them. The reason I recommend Atlas is because they're good people. They might not be the biggest player, but they do have one of the best products in the industry. If you do Google search, if you watch our YouTube videos, shingle guide comparisons, their shingle is bigger, heavier, they don't cut corners, but more importantly, people behind the brand will not let you down. We highly recommend Atlas. Atlas, thank you so much for sponsoring what we do. It takes a lot of time and effort to produce high quality content like today's episode. On that note, I want to introduce you to Brennan. Let's go to Hawaii and join the conversation.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Business Hats Podcast. Today, we're coming to you from Hawaii, literally filming this in paradise. I'm with Brennan, owner of Kapili Roofing and Painting. Man, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us do this thing.
Well, this is a paradise, and listen, I have so many people invited me to their states. I've been in Florida, all over United States. I've been in Honduras last year. I've been in Mexico, and this is very special. It took us about 18 hours to fly here, but once we got here, it was all worth it. I'm very impressed with the operation. I want to start with Paradise piece because I used to have a roofing company in Florida, and every time I land in Florida, I did not feel like working because you immediately have that vacation mood. Do you guys have it here?
I think that's a common misconception here, that it's just completely paradise. Most places are like normal, everyday homeowners. It's more like the coastal areas or the more touristy spots that most people see, but it's like anywhere else.
So you don't have that vibe. I mean, it is like if you think about Las Vegas or Orlando, Florida, for example, there's like 70 million people come per year. So people travel there to have good time. People travel there to be on an ocean. So here you enjoy it all year round. I think it's one of the best markets in the United States just because you cannot ask for better weather. How much rain do you have? How many days you cannot roof because of the weather?
So that'll really vary because we have a lot of valleys, mountains. So in some areas, it'll rain every morning. And in other areas, you might get rain a couple times a month. So there's a lot of little microclimates around here. But typically, like the first quarter of the year, we're going to get a good percentage of rainouts.
So you're saying because people live here all the time, it doesn't feel like you're in paradise? You want to work here, don't you?
Well, you have to survive.
You have to survive.
Yeah. Cost of living is pretty expensive.
What's the most expensive thing? Are we talking about cars? Are we talking about real estate or just food, groceries, gas?
Everything across the board is typically more expensive here. Median home price is 1.1 million. And there's a real big shortage on housing. So that's probably one of the biggest things. But your food, your gas, everything basically needs to be brought in across the Pacific Ocean. So you do pay for that.
How does it compare to California? Is it more expensive than California or similar?
I wouldn't be able to give like comparison there, but I'm more familiar with like the Vegas area, and Vegas is significantly less.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
What about cars, like vehicles? I mean, you buy cars from California. Some of your fleets here were saying yesterday, a dump truck, $70,000. So do you pay much more to get it here?
Yeah, we're gonna pay the freight fees and stuff, but yeah, I guess the only all I know is Hawaii pricing, so I wouldn't know what the comparison would be.
I see.
Yeah.
My next question is, you're 27, right?
28.
28.
Yeah.
You're 28. How are you so humble? You run $40 million company, but you're humble. Like, your employees say that about you. I get that vibe. Is it a culture thing? Is it education? Is it how you grew up? Or is it a business strategy to be humble? Because if you go to United States and you meet average business owner who made over $1 million, he thinks about himself as a big shot, big trucks, all of that, lifted, showing off how much wealth you have. Is it a strategy or culture?
I think it's culture, and I think it's fear, because as quickly as you can gain, you can lose. And if you're defining yourself by how much money you make, when you're hitting a hard time, you're going to define yourself as less.
How did you learn that? What made you say that? I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in those words, and you already know it for a fact by 28. Was it your journey? Why do you think it's so vulnerable?
We will be back to podcast in a minute, but first I wanted to invite all our listeners to a Roofing Process Conference. If you're in the roofing industry, a Roofing Process Conference is a must-attend event. We are no party conference. We are no sales fest conference. We are very, very different and proud of it. It's our 4th year doing the conference, and we're doubling size every year. We have the best people coming. We have one record that we're very proud of. No jerks ever attended, 0 jerks record. Dustin Bigler came to me last year and he told me this. He said, Dmitry, I don't know where you're finding these guys, but they are so nice. I did not know that so many nice roofers were actually in this industry. I would say this: aggressive salespeople attract aggressive salespeople. Scumbags attract scumbags. And successful, hardworking people will attract successful, hardworking people. You can book your tickets at roofconference.com. It's very simple, roofconference.com. Use the promo code Dmitry25 for 25% off at the checkout.
I grew up in the industry. I've seen many roofing companies rise and fall here. And I know when they're, at the peak of their game, they're on top of the world, and then a couple years later, they're not. And I just never want to be that way, and I just want to do it in a way that can be sustainable.
Wow. So you're never too big to fail.
Yeah.
What have you noticed? What was a common thing among companies who've been at the top and then went out? What happened to them?
I think a lot of it was the lack of foresight. So there were a lot of older business owners here, 50s, 60s, and as they've aged, so has their company, and a lot of them went out of business, or maybe a couple of them went out of business.
I see. Your dad started the company in 2007. I want to talk about that relationship with you. Why your dad couldn't grow this company to the size that you did, and why you were able to do it, and how did the whole thing went on?
So I think it was the amount of risk that he was able to assume. So he had 5 kids. I'm one of them. He's a tradesman.
You're the oldest?
Yep. So he had a lot more responsibility, and I don't think that was his, that's not what he wanted to do. He was comfortable at 5-6 million, and he was able to provide a really good lifestyle for him and his family that way. But for me, I don't want to be someone who just takes over what my dad had built. I want to do, put my mark on it. So that's kind of what pushes me to do something different.
Love it. You mentioned that why did he start a company if it wasn't something that he wanted to do? Did he do it just to provide for the family?
Well, there were some opportunities that came up. He was a tradesman. He did small, painting, contracting, and he actually partnered with his uncle, who's actually my grandpa's brother, to do roofing. So they did roofing and painting together. Some opportunity for federal contracts came up, and we needed a separate entity, and that's kind of what actually started Kapili.
I see. Do you have any haters?
I don't know. I don't pay attention.
I want to touch on your Yelp rating, because when I was trying to find address for this place to drive here, I noticed that you guys have 3.5 stars. What's your take on it? Why less than 4 stars?
I don't know. I know Yelp does have an algorithm that they hide a lot of your good reviews. We have probably about 50 that are hidden. But somehow it's always the unhappiest that rise to the top on Yelp. Yeah.
Do you pay Yelp?
The minimum. I pay them like $500 a month. I don't like their business model, and if I have to pay for our good reviews to be shown, it doesn't make sense to me.
Do you feel like you have to pay for good reviews to be shown? Because they still don't show it. Like, it doesn't matter. Yelp is so bad.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it.
I feel like that's the receptacle of the internet. I feel that's where people go to display their frustration with life.
You know that Yelp has 2-star reviews on Yelp?
I've seen that. And it's all business owners like us who are unhappy with Yelp.
And I think it's 1 star too high.
Yeah.
Should be 1-star business. What's your favorite business app?
I actually have a HubSpot tattoo.
You have HubSpot tattoo where?
On my leg.
Really?
So I'd have to say it'd probably be HubSpot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much time per day you spend on HubSpot?
That's the primary engine of our business, but I do a lot of the more the development of everything. So I'm using it daily. Yeah.
Top 3 KPIs that you track.
I have a whole dashboard, but I think the top 3 for me would be just P&L, balance sheet, and our rolling 30-day sales.
Rolling 30-day sales, love it. So are you looking at do you set up monthly goals for sales?
So with our market, I keep monthly sales goals for residential, but for our other, like federal, state, city, and county, it's a little more unpredictable. So I look at it more as like an annual, because I want to diversify out from being overweight in any one business unit.
Let's talk about competition. How many companies are out there? Do you feel like it's a fierce competition here? Is it fair? It's medium? Because in the United States, roofing is very, very competitive market, especially states like Illinois or Texas. What about here? Do people shop around? Do they get 3-4 estimates, or it's referral driven?
There's 40 to 50 companies here, but it seems as though like a lot of them go out of business or new ones pop up. The top 10 here do about 130 million a year total. There's some federal contractors, with from the Pacific Rim that come in for like Navy installations and stuff. I would say like the competition's fair. Most homeowners will do their due diligence, get their 3 or 4 quotes, but compared to other markets, I don't think it's as competitive, but it's not, easy. Yeah.
If I would come from mainland to open a roofing company here, how hard it would be for me? What do I have to learn to be successful here in this market?
I think there's a lot of older homes. So it's almost like you have to know the history. There's a lot of things like there were points where we sheeted the roofs with the byproducts of sugarcane. So it's like a particle board that contains arsenic. And knowing, like what homes contain that, there's a lot of lead, a lot of asbestos. There's a lot of single wall construction. So It's like in the mainland, you'd see soffits. Like we don't have soffits. Just stuff like that.
So if you don't have soffits, how do you ventilate?
It's just little events. There's like 2x4 blocking, and
Mhm.
it's just events. You can see the rafters from underneath.
I was curious. I was driving around. I did not see a lot of algae, but you do have humidity here. It's
Mhm.
always 80. Why algae is not growing on the roofs, or does it? Maybe I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so it really depends what area of the island. Areas like Manoa, Waiva, Kaneohe, you'll see tons of algae.
Really?
Yeah. So
There's
there's
a lot of rain.
yeah.
Do you guys have active volcano now?
So when Hawaii, so actually there's a hot spot over the Big Island. So the tectonic plate started and moved northwest. So all of these islands were once over that hot spot. And as the tectonic plate moved, it brought the islands more northwest. And now the only active volcano is on the Big Island, and it's actually erupting right now.
Really?
Mhm.
How long have you been erupting?
I think like it started again like a couple of days ago. Yeah.
What's predictions? Does it affect any business predictions? Like, do they say it's a dangerous area or?
So in the Big Island, there's like lava zones. So like there's like different measures of risk in each area.
I've seen houses burned by lava.
Yeah.
Like within the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Those are usually like I think the market prices in like if you're in that zone, you're at higher risk and the values are a little lower there.
But you still can buy a house there.
Yeah.
What would it take to insure a house there?
I don't know.
Like
I just wouldn't buy one.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if State Farm would have exclusions for
I would think
lava.
so. Yeah.
We're gonna insure it,
Yeah.
just like they have flood exclusions in Florida and stuff. Let's talk about seasons and storms.
Mhm.
What's your storm season? I know in Florida it's August through October.
Mhm.
What is it here?
It's like June 30 to like November 30 or something. That's the hurricane season.
How bad it gets here?
Nothing like Florida. So we have storms that roll in, but it's kind of unique because the direction that it comes from, a lot of times the Big Island will break up the storm. There's some of the highest summits there. There's actually a lot of like observatories because of the air quality and stuff for like space and stuff. But that's actually saved us a lot of times from storms where that island takes the brunt of it and it misses everything else here. We get heavy rains, but not like huge hurricane type things.
I see. Let's talk about pricing. So to live here is pretty expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean that people get paid more to do the work? Is your minimum wage higher? Do roofers get paid more than on the mainland?
So minimum wage here is 10.10, and it's scheduled to move up. I don't know.
10.10 is less than mainland, right?
No, I don't.
Isn't it like $15 in California?
I think in some states it's like 15. But I don't know any roofing companies that pay minimum here. I mean,
Okay. Where's the pricing starting at trades?
it's about 15 to 17 is where entry level labor starts. And then it'll go anywhere into the 40s and 50s.
Got it. What about general pricing for like shingles, materials? Because I've seen some pricing and they're not much different than like in LA. So you have SRS here. What suppliers do you have?
So we have SRS, Beacon, ABC, Pat Coast, and then we have some smaller local
Who's
distributors.
your favorite?
Probably SRS.
Why do you pick them over others?
Just the relationships that we've built. We were with them since they opened up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And pricing for labor, would you say pretty competitive with like Las Vegas, for example?
That, I mean, I'm not sure.
You just don't know mainland, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, what about opportunities? If someone would come from mainland, let's say a crew wants to travel here for a season,
Hmm.
can they be subcontracting here, or is it regulated that you have to be employed?
So, I mean, like for us, we self-perform 100%. If there were a crew that wanted to come and work, it'd probably have to be on an employment type thing. But I do know that there are subcontractor crews that come here from other states.
Do you pay a lot work comp?
Yeah.
Like a lot? Is it one of your biggest bills?
Well, insurance in general is one of our biggest. Yeah.
Do you do any insurance work, like insurance claims? Does it exist here?
Yeah. So we're actually like on like a managed repair program with one of the biggest insurers here.
You do a lot of government work?
Yeah. So that's actually how we started out contracting was with the federal government. But right now we do stuff with University of Hawaii, some stuff with Kamehameha Schools, Department of Education, city and county, federal.
How hard is it to get into that space? What do you have to have in place? Is it all paperwork or is it cash flow? What's the hardest in that?
I think the big one is it would be, well, bonding's one big one. You need cash flow to get bonded. Understanding the procurement methods, the different actors that you're going to be dealing with. It's different from a retail experience. And I think that if you treat it like a retail, you're setting yourself up for a hard time there.
Let's talk about Davis-Bacon Act. You have to pay employees way more.
Mm-hmm.
What you take in it? Is it fair? Do you see more and more projects being affected by it? Like, should businesses pay those wages, not on the government jobs?
I think that the benefit of the Davis-Bacon Act for public projects is that, I mean, if the government's going to pay for it, they can tell us how much we're going to pay the guys because, I mean, ultimately they're going to absorb the cost there. So I think it's a good way to distribute money to the working class people. But as far as paying that in the private market, I mean, a homeowner won't do it. So I think you're going to price yourself out.
So you cannot compete with the other companies.
Yeah.
But how many companies are willing to bid on the government jobs when they, have to pay higher? Like, why more companies don't do that?
It's probably not the cost of the project itself. I think it's everything around it, your insurance, your bonding, the procurement. It ties up your cash a lot longer.
What's the average pay period for a government project?
You probably won't see your first check for 90 days. So
what's the longest it takes to get paid?
There have been instances where it's over a year to fully close it out. Depends on the institution.
Okay. Another hot topic on the mainland these days is recycling.
Mm-hmm.
My guess it's probably 10 times harder here. How do you guys deal with that?
So that is a challenge here. The major landfill on Oahu it was supposed to close down a couple of years ago. They're saying it's going to close down soon. No one knows when, but it's over capacity. And that poses a lot of challenges if they really do that, because they actually shut down abatement like asbestos and disposal here, and the costs for that went up a lot because you have to ship it.
Mm-hmm. So they take it, you pretty much deliver it to the boat?
Mm-hmm. So the abatement contractors pretty much have to ship it out, so they have to price that in now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just to give our listeners perspective, how much do you pay per truckload of shingle waste?
Minimum charge is in the 400s, and then I think it's like $60 or $70 a ton after that.
So for first 5 tons,
Mm-hmm.
it's $400.
Yeah.
Then you pay it. Wow, this is crazy. So a typical 20 square roof will cost you at least $400.
Yeah, 400 or 500.
Wow. And they still just bury it. It's typical landfill. They bury it on the island, I
Yep.
guess.
So most of the landfills in Hawaii are on the west side of the islands. So we have to drive it an hour west.
Wow.
And yeah.
And you have it in-house.
Yep.
How many trucks do you have?
We have 5 dump trucks, but I mean, for the bigger projects, we'll bring in 40-yard cans.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much there every day.
Pretty much.
Wow. How big is the landfill? How big is the place?
As far as size, I'm not sure, but basically all the commercial waste has to go there, so it's got to be pretty big.
This is crazy. And there's no solution. I mean, it's island, so you can't bury it in the ocean. So you'll have to get I mean, they'll have to think it through if they're going to close it.
Yeah, it's
Do they offer any recycling here? Any manufacturers? Any?
No, I mean, a couple of years ago, I wanted to buy a shingle grinder and figure out what to do with the recycled asphalt product, but it would be a challenge to get our road builders, to utilize the product. So it's something that we've been looking at and trying to figure out what we could do, but more and more we see the need to find a good solution to construction waste.
It's a shame that these billion-dollar giants who sell us shingles keep advertising that they have all these programs, but even the entire state of Hawaii, there's no solution. I mean, we have the same problem in our states. They do a good job on marketing and advertising, but then on the back end, they'll say like, oh, we invested $100 million in this, but then at the end of the day, it's very minimal. Like business owners they don't help us. They don't even give us direction. What, hey, here's a resource. Here's one thing you can do. There's no options. We have to go and start a business or really figure it out. It's a shame. I want to talk about your company culture. You have a gym here. I talked to all of your employees yesterday. Everyone says that it's a fun to work for you here. You mentioned that one of the hardest things for you, it was when you had to lay off employee, I believe in 2016. You don't like to lay off people. Talk to me about your mindset, because, from as an outsider, as someone who visited hundreds of businesses, I can tell you that's your true secret to success. You build a team, you keep the team in place, you're a hero to them, you build amazing culture. How does someone build a culture like this? What are the steps? How intentional you are building what you have built?
Well, I think that you spend the majority of your waking day, working. And if you're not having fun doing it, how are you going to do your best work? So I try to create an environment where people can do more meaningful work and see that there's potential in the roofing industry. Most people don't go to school and, grow up and say, hey, I want to work at a roofing company. It's something that they kind of stumble upon. And I think that, once they're here, I think it's a lot different from what they'd probably have imagined. We do more technology and culture type things than actual construction here, I think.
You're trying to attract people from mainland. I talked to your HR person yesterday. What do you offer? If someone is listening to this and he's an actual roofer, what's your value proposition? How can you help them relocate? Because we started a podcast with how expensive Hawaii is, but I've seen very, very cool market for a roofer. Like if I would be still working with my hands, I would want to relocate here. I would personally do everything I can to get myself here and get full-time job all year round, because if you're thinking about Midwest of the United States, roofers work there 7-8 months a year, or Canada, and then in the wintertime we shower snow and we do random jobs, random gigs. Some of them will travel down to Florida after hurricanes where there's a lot of work. You have work all year round, but you have other challenges. What do you do to attract people?
So I think, we have a very competitive wage scale in this market. I'm not sure about other markets, but we have a lot of work. We have a lot of government work, which comes with higher wages. We have profit sharing plan, 401k match. Yeah, we have a lot of, I guess, that kind of stuff. But we've also, in our company history, only laid off 2 people once, and that was in 2016. To me, I think that if I can't keep them employed for 40 years, I shouldn't hire them. Because if
For
they're
40 years.
till they retire.
Wow.
Because if I can't provide an opportunity here that they can see themselves devoting their time and their energy into, then maybe I shouldn't hire them. So that's the I guess the take that we have on hiring here.
Wow. This might be life-changing episode for someone who is in the roofing trade, actually roofing every day, might be listening and decided to make a phone call or to fill up application, relocate to Hawaii, and spend the rest of his life in paradise, working for a company, earning his retirement, and enjoying beautiful scenery every day. We're going to try to spread the word to find some people here, because what I've seen here, I mean, first of all, you have amazing team on the sales side. You have good operations, warehouse. I mean, you have everything in place. You just need hands to work. I mean, you have 6 month work backlog, 6 month worth of work. If you only had enough people, like how many people can you employ today, you think?
Well, I'm looking for about 30 more.
30 people. They
Yeah.
have 30 open positions. Guys, think about it. Would you say it's harder than ever to find an employee?
Well,
Like skilled trade labor?
yeah, I think more and more the pipeline of younger talent, they're looking for other types of jobs. You know, there's the gig economy and everyone has that in their mind. But I think that there will come a time where people start to see the value of blue collar in the trades again. You see it in the tech industry right now, you know, like there's a lot of people losing their jobs. It's going to become more competitive. And I think that things like roofing, there's always going to be a need for it. And it's a good place to be if you have the right opportunity.
Wow. I have 2 last questions for you. I think your best advice would be to someone who is working with their dad in the family. I get so many DMs, people asking me, it's like, hey, Dmitry, I'm working with my dad, but I don't like what he's doing. He's stubborn, he's old school, and I'm thinking starting on my own. Or what advice would you give me? What advice would you give to someone who is taking over, or maybe they're attracted to the business, but they don't like the way their dad is doing it? How do you overcome that family drama, but still build the business?
I think that recognizing the opportunity that you have and the price that had to be paid to get to that point by your family member is important, because it's harder to go from 0 to $1 million than $1 million to 6 million, or 6 million to 25 million. That startup is something that they had to pay the price for. Respecting that, being patient with them coming from a different background and perspective, I think is important, because the reason why you know the things that you know is because he knows the things that he knows. And,
Exactly.
yeah.
Good advice. What was the hardest size for you? You mentioned 1 to 6, 6 to 25. What was the hardest sales size, gross sales for your organization?
I think every point comes with its challenges, but one that sticks out to me was going from that first year where we went from 6 to like 11.7 or something, and a lot of that growth came from the commercial side, which, you know, that really stretches your cash thin, and there was a lot of business processes that needed to change at that point. I think that was the hardest point if I had to pick any one area.
Wow. Give advice to someone who's just getting started, first year in business, don't know what they're getting into, maybe have different background, but now they're a business owner, they're a true startup. what advice would you give them?
So when I started, our sheet metal sub, he's a really good friend, kind of like my uncle, pretty much. You know, in Hawaii we call people auntie and uncle. But he told me just soak everything up like a sponge and just keep learning. And that's what I still try to do, because I feel that lifelong learning is important at any point. So yeah, I would just say like learn as much as you can. Be open to everything.
Wow. Thank you so much. It was amazing, man.